Hey again, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another week of I'm Turning 30. This is a video series where every single week I talk about the past 30 years of my life leading up to my 30th birthday and what's made me into me. And as you can see from the title of today's video, money. That's what we're going to be talking about. In the last video, I mentioned that I was in therapy. Now, money was probably the issue that I talked with my therapist the most about during our sessions. And now if we want to talk about money, let's go all the way back to when I was a kid and learn more about how I viewed money growing up. Overall, family-wise, I don't feel like I ever grew up poor. I think I was just standard middle class. I never felt like we had a ton of money or anything like that, but I never felt like we were poor or missing anything. My parents may have hid that or made it not feel that way in general, but I never noticed. I guess growing up, it always felt like, especially now looking back on it, we always seemed to be middle class from what I can remember. So as you view this video, take it with that viewpoint in mind, and maybe it'll change kind of how you see the things that I did or didn't do. So when I first wanted to start making money via jobs, I was probably around 12 or 13. I remember that I talked to my dad about it, and besides the small allowance that I was getting for doing my chores, which was $5 per week, I wanted something more on top of that. I was realizing that video games were very expensive, and I was not going to be able to buy them if I didn't have a job or some other source of income. So my father obliged, and he was like, yeah, I'll get you something that will help you get money, and he bought me a little spray painting kit. It had cutouts of numbers, it had a bunch of different spray paints, and the idea was to go to neighborhoods and other homes around my area that wanted their house number spray painted on the curb. Now, I only did this twice over the course of probably 6 months because I couldn't push myself to go do that. I wanted an easy way to make money. And what was an easy way to make money? Well, let me take you back a little bit further from jobs when I was a little bit younger and growing up. When I was a kid, I didn't necessarily make money through the best of ways. I wasn't getting that $5 allowance that I mentioned earlier. Me and my sister had to convince my parents to give us that. Before that allowance came in, I was getting money through other ways, or even getting things that I wanted through different ways. Stealing. And as grave as stealing might sound to you, especially as a kid, I did it quite often. For some reason, my little kid brain thought it was okay to do. It kind of got worse as I got older. For example, when I was little, I would break into my neighbor's house. I mean, break into is a strong word, I guess. I would walk into their house while it was unlocked, go into their pantry, and just eat their snacks. I knew the kids that were behind the house, but I wasn't going there to really hang out with them every day. Sometimes I just wanted a snack they had. So I'd hop the fence in our backyard, go into their pantry and start eating their food because they had better snacks than we did. Another example kind of in the same realm is walking into one of my friends' house while none of them were home and playing a game on one of their computers. We didn't have that game at my house, so I decided it would be okay to just go into their house while they weren't home and play their games. I remember the time I got caught doing this, I had left the front door open or done something to tip them off that there was someone in the house, and they returned home and started yelling throughout the house that they thought there was a burglar, and if their burglar was still in the house that they were going to hurt them. And that was a very traumatizing thing as a child, as I broke into somebody's house, and for some reason that didn't stop me from doing it years later. Now we move on from that neighborhood and we get into my next neighborhood after I moved when I was about 10 years old. And in this house that I was in, I was there for a few years, and this is where that job that I mentioned earlier started to come up. But like I said, I wasn't super into going out and doing it. I still wanted to make money through unconventional and seemingly easy ways. For example, another neighbor that was right behind me at the time, I hopped the fence and I knew where he kept his money. Because he didn't have it on his person, I figured he didn't need it. And so I just took it and I would buy things with it. And I did that a few times at this person's house. Again, not proud of it, but that's what I did to make money. And again, this kind of turned into this own, I don't want to say philosophy, but habit, I guess, of mine, where I would take any money that was around. For example, I'm sure a lot of people have kind of heard of looking for change in the couch cushions. Well, I applied that to my life, but a little bit more extra than a lot of people just searching for change in the couch cushions. While I did look for change in the couch cushions, I also looked for bills. And not just in the couch cushions, on counters, on the floor of my sister's room. I looked for money everywhere, and I would take whatever money I felt I needed to get something I needed in that moment, or very close to that moment at least. And this wasn't only money. Sometimes I would take objects that I knew I could sell at pawn shops and game shops so that I could turn a profit and kind of just buy stuff that I wanted, because other people obviously weren't using these things. I would use them. This even applied to accidents too. I infamously, me and my cousins have an inside joke about this because I told them years later about this. I accidentally took a Pokemon Emerald from one of my cousins. I took it home. I thought it was mine. I had brought my Game Boy up there to play in the car, and I thought for some reason, that's weird that my Game Boy Emerald is sitting in my cousin's room on his desk, because obviously he doesn't have it, so it's obviously mine. So I'll take it, and I took it back home. Needless to say, I found out that it was his game, and instead of returning it, telling my parents, like, hey, I got this game, I was like, nah, he doesn't need it anymore. Obviously, I have it, so I'm going to go sell it to this game store. And it wasn't, just with my cousin. I would go over to my friend's house, and if they had games I knew they didn't play or use, I would just take them and sell them to game stores so that I could have the credits of the game stores to buy games that I wanted to buy. So things like this gradually continued until I got my first real job. I worked as a sort of landscaper, clean up person for a dentist's office. So the dentist had a gardener, or like a person that took care of his signage and grass and all that kind of stuff. And I was hired by that guy to help him do things. I didn't have to pay taxes or sign paperwork, so it's sort of illegal, but I'm sure it's past the statute of limitations now, so, Yep. But this was the first time I was actually getting paid and willing to actually do the work to get paid. And while I had this job, many of my friends can tell you that I still have this tendency to pick up whatever money that I find lying around. Granted, not stealing anymore, because obviously I realize that is wrong, but I will pick up pennies on the ground. I'll pick up quarters anywhere. If somebody doesn't want change, I will gladly take it. I will take all money, any money, every day, all day, because I think it's all helpful, regardless of how much it is. So luckily, I got over those stealing tendencies. I mean, I still do find coins and I'll take them from the ground, the gutter, no matter how hardly imprinted, unless they're like glued to the surface, I will take them. If it's anything like under $1, then I'll probably just take it. Granted, if I saw like a $20 bill, $100 bill, just a big stack of cash just out on the street and like floating around, I'd probably take it. If we're talking a wallet, I'd return it now. It has an ID. I actually did that recently. Fun fact. Later along the line with the landscaping job, I decided to move on to a different job, and I got your normal average part-time job just like everybody else. Worked at Arby's, worked at Jamba Juice, got the whole 725 deal back when I was in high school, 2010, 2011 area. Now at this point, I'm making enough money to kind of keep up with my interests and figure out how to buy things that I want to buy and go out with my friends. Now, this part of the issue with money, I don't know when it started, but I was incapable of saving money. No matter how hard I tried or whenever I saved it, somehow I would always need to spend the saved money on something. Like something would happen and I would need to use that saved money, which you could say, yeah, that's what the saved money's for. But it wasn't always like something that I necessarily needed to spend the money on. I would just spend the savings because it was like, oh, there's this game that's coming out. I don't have the money in my checking account, but I obviously have it in my savings account. I'll get it. Oh, my friends are going to this restaurant. I don't have money in my checking account, but I'll use my savings. Sometimes it was for necessary things, like my car repair. Sometimes I was like, I need to use my savings, which is a good thing. The issue was, it was just all like a checkings account to me. So I never developed a habit of saving money. In fact, I wanted to spend money and do things for me, and eventually that turned into wanting to spend money on other people because I felt like they deserved to have that money because they would save it or invest it in a good way. Now, another part of growing up and another big part of why I wanted to talk about money is being scared of debt. That was one of my main motivators for doing a lot of what I did getting into my adult years. So Luckily, if you were a benefactor of that, it felt really good for you, but it may not have been the best time for me to do that thing for you. So, congratulations. If you're a friend in any shape, form, sense of the word, now that we're kind of adults and older and we've talked, you've likely benefited from that aspect of me. I really enjoy giving gifts to people. For love languages, I think the gift giving one isn't something that a lot of people are proud of, and I don't like receiving the gifts myself, but for some reason, I like doing gift giving as a love language. Kind of dives into the next subject, debt. Now, rest assured, if you ever received a gift from me, if I ever gifted you subs on Twitch, if I ever did anything like that for you, I didn't go into debt to do those things, but it may have better served me to save that money, because essentially what I was doing was, hey, I have this amount of excess money. I don't deserve it myself. I'm going to give it away to others, either via Twitch or via gifts. I'm going to get rid of this money that I have to please other people because their happiness is more important than me having money and my future. Now, this kind of ties back into the video last week, getting older and just kind of the state of my mental health. I started to feel like I didn't deserve these things, that I didn't deserve the money, and anything that I earned via work was meant to be given to other people. Now, this can be a positive, and I have donated to charities and things like that, but for some reason, it feels more personable and likable to me when I give it to somebody that I know or feel affiliated with. Now, debt for me, just in general, has been a really scary thing since I was a kid. When I was a kid, I mentioned at the start of the video that I feel like I grew up in a seemingly normal middle-class family. I always feel like I heard my parents talking about debts. This was very common to hear. I feel like it was something that was just harped into me, essentially, that debts were something that you were going to have no matter what, no matter how you lived your life. This debt thing was going to hit you, and you were just going to be paying off this money that you didn't have, and it lasts until you're this age when you do these things. And I just was scared of that, and I never wanted that. I'm still scared of that. So to this day, I really haven't gotten in a whole lot of debt. The only large amount of debt that I've had is when I had to get a new car. I just essentially didn't have a choice. The car that I had didn't really make a whole lot of money. I had a kind of down payment for a car, but I ended up having to go into debt for that car. That was really stressful, having to make those payments. But for example, phones. I love just paying off my phone and not having the debt part of the phone, the money that I need to pay monthly, be a part of my life. I don't like debt at all in any form. So as you can see, my relationship with money wasn't exactly the healthiest in either way. I wasn't saving, but I also wasn't going to debt. I was essentially taking the money that I was given every 2 weeks from my jobs, whatever job that may be, and filtering it into other people and things. And obviously sometimes I would spend it on myself. I'd get food for myself, buy things that I want. You can see posters around me, for example, and other things that I own. I do buy things for myself, but that excess that I get, I always feel like I need to give to somebody else. Going further into the whole debt subject, school. I was so scared of debt that I decided I was going to pay my way through every single semester of school that I did. And painstakingly, so painstakingly, and I don't know if I necessarily regret this right now, I can't tell, but I did get through school, and it was a huge accomplishment, honestly, to graduate school with zero student debt at all, knowing that I paid my way through it all. It's a huge accomplishment and something that I'm super proud of. But obviously on the flip side, I lost some years because I wasn't able to pay for a certain amount of classes per semester, and I didn't graduate at the same time, and this whole plethora of other reasons of it could have been a bad thing. So again, I don't know if I'll ever regret it because I'm proud of myself for doing it, but there's obviously negatives that have come of it as well. And this all just stems from the fear of debt. Like even now, going into the future, I mean, I'm going to be turning 30, and I can't even imagine getting a house. I'm going to have to make house payments and be in debt for a house and a living situation. I'd rather just rent for the rest of my life. I don't want to be in debt for a house. That sounds terrible and scary. Now, if we look at my financial situation today, hey, guess what? Still don't have any debts. No savings at all, though, either. I live in another country, not making great money, and I recently found out that I spent over $3,000 on a gacha game that I probably should have saved and done something else with, and that gotcha game is also now shutting down, and I've essentially just lost $3,000 into this game that I'll never be able to play again or use. So I'm not great with money, but I am also not terrible with it. I have like this weird relationship, as I think you can kind of see from the tone and the vibe of my body language and how I've been speaking throughout this video. All that to say, I'm working on it. Something that I, had to learn in therapy was why I was doing these things, and figuring out I didn't really love myself and that I needed to spend it on other people because I felt like I wasn't deserving of love from others, which ties into the last video that I made about my birthday. I didn't feel like I was deserving of love from other people, and other people would benefit if I tried to give them any ounce of love. And then for the fear of debt thing, I think that's just something I don't know if I'll ever get over, to be honest. I think it was so ingrained in me as a child, and I don't want to just say it was all from my parents. I think it was from society as well, just saying that you would have all these student loans and all these other things, loans from places, and you'd be in debt for this and that and all this other stuff. I think it's just kind of ingrained into me as a person to be scared of debt, and I think that's a good thing to be scared of, luckily. Sometimes it might hinder me in the case of a house, for example. That'll be a fun subject if I ever have a partner and they want to buy a house, that I will have to try to figure out how to navigate with them, because I don't want to do that so bad. But yeah, that's a lot of what I have to do with money in my life. There was the stealing phase, there's the debt scaredness, there's the feeling I'm not deserving of the money that I'm earning through work and giving it to others via gifts or people online or in a gotcha game that doesn't make any sense that I spent so much money on. But all that to say, will I be better with it in the future? I'll do my best. I just got this tattoo. That cost me a lot of money, but I'm surviving. Also, I hope that you're watching this and you're not like having pity on me or anything. Don't have pity on me for this. I've gotten myself into this own situation, and I think I can work myself out of it. I feel like I'm close to breaking out of this issue with money in general, but there's still something that I'm hitting up against, and it might be the fact that I'm not making a whole lot of money as a teacher here in Japan. I will do my best to improve myself. I hope this is giving you some type of insight on me. Again, I don't know what type of weird, shitty insight that this will give you, but yep, hope this helped you learn about me. But once again, everyone, thank you again for tuning in. This is the end of this video. Hopefully my scatterbrained thoughts kind of got across to you in some message or some way, or it was just somewhat entertaining to kind of hear what I did about money and stealing and all that kind of fun stuff as I was growing up. But yeah, guys, if you liked my scatterbrained thoughts around money, or you're liking this series in general and you haven't done so, hey, see that little subscribe button down there? Pretend it's a money sign and you'll get money if you press it. That'll work, I promise. Also, if you have anything that you want me to talk about in my life, any either themes, specific subjects, whether that is something that I'm into or something that you just want to hear my opinion on, put it down in the comments below. Let me know. I'm also still looking for advice on how people want me to treat the names of other people as I kind of go throughout this series. There are certain topics that I would love to talk about, but they would, I think, benefit from or have more clarity from me saying people's names. So I've gotten a few suggestions, but I'd like to hear more people's opinions and whatnot. So if you haven't, let me know. Put it down in the comments down below, or send me a DM wherever we're mutuals, or text me, or just get a hold of me and let me know. I do really appreciate you guys tuning in every week, though. It means the world to me that you guys have decided to walk into this inside of my life and see this path that I'm walking and how I'm trying to grow as a person and be better. I appreciate you guys also so much, and I look forward to seeing you next week on I'm Turning 30. Bye, guys.